Hello and welcome to the Jordan Experience podcast. And this week we've got a little something a little bit different, a little bit out of the norm. So instead of running through some random topics like I usually do, or having a guest on, I asked some of my some folks to ask a question that I could give a piece of advice on. So I figure this episode will be me trying to give some decent advice for people out there. So let's hop right into the very first question I have is how to balance out work and being happy without failing school. That's a good question because, especially us high schoolers having to balance out either working jobs or, after school activities or sports or schoolwork. And depending on what classes you take, that schoolwork could be, more stressful than others. So, that being said, I think the first thing I would say is you need to prioritize whatever's obviously most important. Worry about that first. Like the last thing you should be worrying about is, trivial matters or what, Jessica said in the hallway or whatever. If your name is Jessica, I'm not calling you out. That's just the first name I thought of. But actually balancing that out, that can be tough. At this stage right now, I think a lot of people are worried about their futures, which is valid. I think a lot of people are worried about, extracurriculars and schoolwork. So I think, however, I think that the thing that people should be most worried about at this stage, not really worried, most concerned with, because I don't want to stress people out or anything, is schoolwork. Your whole job right now as a teenager, including myself, I'm speaking as if I'm outside of that. I'm right here with you. Would be focusing on the schoolwork first, because yes, although you want to set yourself up for a future and career or whatever or college, the only way you're going to be able to do that is by passing your classes and getting good grades and getting those credits and such. So I think prioritizing schoolwork over, even a job. Like if you really do not have time to work during the day, I still think that schoolwork would be more important than working a job and getting money. Although valuable, it just takes precedent over anything else right now. I mean, except if you're, your family maybe, or what, if there's something extra going on, something, mental health for sure. But outside of those realms, between working and school, I think school is more important. But the whole being happy, just focusing on school all the time isn't going to make you happy. So I think you have to, give yourself a break, and I don't know. I don't really want to say just take it easy on yourself, because that's that's not really advice. That's just like just get over it, and that's not really fair. So I think to balance that out would just be to, yes, focus on schoolwork primarily, but don't bend over backwards to get things done. If you just don't have it in you, you can't. Like if something happened on the weekend and you couldn't get anything done, teachers are lenient. They're not going to crucify you because you turned in something late. So just going for everybody out there is, don't ever push yourself over the limit, to where you're like, pulling your hair out or pacing back and forth in your room because you don't know how you're going to get this done. Because it's just not fair to yourself. And, to keep yourself, happy, or, even just like for some people, sane, you have to make time for yourself and do the things that you want to do, and, talk to the people you want to talk to and chill out. Because I think we've all, at the end of the day, I think we all have earned a break. So, next question. How to make space between you and a clingy friend. Very good question. one that I've had to deal with myself, actually, not calling anybody out. However, making space between you and a clingy friend, that can be very difficult because, especially if you don't like making people upset, or you're afraid to, I don't want to say afraid to stand up for yourself, but if you're afraid to, I don't know, put your foot down, that sort of deal. It can be very stressful because you don't want to come off as mean, and maybe you don't want to lose the friend. You just want them to back off a little bit. And the only real way to get anything done with that kind of situation would be, first of all, you have to be honest with your friend. And you don't have to, we have to have a talk and then, lambast them for 15 minutes about how clingy they are, because then you could just butcher the whole friendship. However, by saying nothing, your silence is acceptance. And by saying nothing, you're kind of allowing that behavior to continue. So you have to, well, let me just tell you, I'll tell you what I would do, and maybe that would be some help. If I had a clingy friend, I would, and once it reached that limit to where I couldn't take it anymore, it would definitely be a one-on-one conversation. It wouldn't be in front of other people type of thing. It could even be a phone call, or even, text back and forth. But I think an in-person conversation would be a little bit, would be better for this sort of scenario. So sit them down, be like, look, friend, we have to figure something out because you are all over me. And, it's stressing me out, and I have to make time for myself. I have other friends that I want to hang out with. My life can't just be about you the whole time. And if they can't accept that, that's their problem. You have a right to your own time. You have a right to your own space. You have a right to talk to whoever you want to talk to. And if one person is like holding you down the whole time, that's not fair. And I get that you don't. It's very upsetting to stand up to somebody and go, knock it off. But at a certain point, I mean, realistically, the only way to counter that sort of clingy friend behavior is you can even phrase it as nice as possible and just go, I want to be able to hang out with other people. I still want to hang with you. I want to be friends. And if you don't want to be friends, that's, you can go down that path too and say, I think we should, get some space. But obviously you don't want to ridicule the person. Because you don't want to be in the business of causing drama, but just talk to them about how it makes you feel, and if they can't understand your point of view, I think that's their problem, and you got to have some confidence in yourself that you have a right to do what you please, and it's just a difficult situation, and a lot of times, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but a lot of times it's very difficult to get out of without anybody getting, upset. So it can happen, though. I would stay positive, especially if it's, if it's a light type of conversation where you're just like, look, dude, you got to chill out. I think it'll definitely work out, especially at this stage where we're all just teenagers, so I think that can be worked out. Just, talk to the person. You don't want to just, ghost them. So, moving on from that. Kind of a topical question here, as next week is homecoming. How do I get a date to homecoming? This one's, I think, kind of difficult for some people who are like the lone wolves out there. But first things first, you have to, figure out who you're interested in, who you want to take, and then, get to know that person, and let you, the only way is to just ask, because they can't read your mind, and if they say no, yeah, it's going to be painful and probably awkward and cringe, but, you can take pride in the fact that you went out there and you put yourself on the line, and if it works out, yippee. But you're not risking your dignity here. You might be embarrassing for a little bit, but you had the strength to go out there and ask. So I think that's the only solution I can give you is is to just ask, be straight up and be honest. You don't want to like kind of skirt around it because we are running out of time. I mean, it's next week. So if you're still looking at this point, you got to hustle. You got to get out there and start asking. So moving forward, how to decide on a career path. Well, there's resources here at school that, Mr. Mueller and things like that will help you set on the right direction. But it's really just what you have experience in and what you want to do. And, and some things, and the obvious thing would be, okay, I don't know what I want to do. The easiest thing, I would say, would be either talk to some sort of, I don't know if this is the correct title, but career counselor. And, express what you're interested in. And, I mean, even if that doesn't work, because that's kind of a lot of extra steps in figuring out what you want to do. I would say if you're graduating especially, and you have no idea what you're going to do, the safest option is to there's two safe options, is to enter the career field, and I'm not talking about, like Walmart or, fast food or anything like that, or service or retail. I mean, like, get out there, even like a temp agency would be could be very beneficial because, you get they'll send you to a company, like the place I worked at over the summer. We get a lot of, they get a lot of temp applicants that come in and, it's a wood shop. So they have, they come in, get experience in that. And if they like it, they can stay and they can get hired on after X amount of hours, or they go back to the temp agency and go, no, I'm not really that. And they can send you to a different company, and they kind of just like, they can throw you at a variety of different things. So I think that's a valuable option, as well as just going to college for something as basic as like business. And so you can have a lot of reach as far as maybe internships or something, or people at college can hook you up with different paths that you can take. But if you go to college and you have no idea what you want to do, don't go into a specific major. Pick something broad that you can kind of you have a little bit of maneuverability within, so that you can kind of once you figure it out, instead of having to, go through some arduous process, you can kind of just make some lateral move over to the next thing, instead of it being some process. So temp agency, broad college options, getting experience in the work field is really all I can think of at this point. I'm going to skip that one because that's a suspect question. So, how to tell your dog he's weird. First of all, I would ask, weird in what sense? Secondly, I would say, if he's that weird, sit him down, have a conversation, and go, you're suspect, you're weird. And depending on what weird behavior he does, I don't know, take him to a behavior thing so they can train him. Other than that, I don't know. Treat him with love so he knows you care, and maybe he'll stop acting weird. Anyway, next question. How do I tell my family I don't appreciate the way they act to me? Good question. In my experience, I have, many siblings. And so in my experience, the only way to like get over some like beef you have, or something that they say to you that you're not comfortable with or whatever, the only way, as I've grown up with my siblings, we've kind of like gotten over the whole like petty mess with each other thing, and it's, we have like a lot of fun, and it's like jokes and he back and forth, and we're just kikiing around in each other's rooms and stuff. So I think as you get older, and because there's a wide age gap between you and your sibling, so it's kind of hard to connect with them. But as you both age and you both can like relate to similar experiences, and you both kind of mature more. You can you kind of connect more, and the relationship can heal naturally on its own without really much effort. But that's like a future solution. So a solution for now would be, if your sibling doesn't take you seriously and isn't willing to have a serious conversation, that's kind of just like a maybe you get your parents to come down, and or whoever, your guardian, whoever you live with, to come down and to make them sit down and have a conversation with you. And if they still don't, I think that's their choice, and they, you can choose. They're your family, and I'm sure you care about them. But at a certain point, is sometimes you'd have to cut family members off if they aren't willing to have a dialogue with you. So, but that's way last resort type of situation. But simply put, I would say, if you don't appreciate the way they act, you have to speak up. I mean, it's so easy. It's easier said than done to just say, stand up for yourself, because I know I understand how difficult that can be, and you're kind of like going against the you're going against the grain, and that can be very an uncomfortable experience for a lot of people. So I think that the only real way to kind of, it's got to be a conversation, okay? It can't be you just complain to them about how they act, and it can't just be them complaining to you and acting a certain way, because sometimes it might be you're doing something wrong as well, and they kind of like hit off that, and it can spiral and snowball, and it can turn into this back and forth thing. But it needs to be honest conversation where you're communicating with each other about the problems. And if you're both mature people, you can have a dialogue, and you can go back and forth about what your grievances are. And if you're truly interested in having a relationship, with your family or whomever, you can you work through the changes and make differences. And if they just don't care, they just don't care. And like I said, sometimes that's it then. But most, generally speaking, 80, 90% of people are reasonable, and they'll be willing to hear you out because they're family, and they probably care about you, even though it doesn't seem like it. So have a conversation, be honest. Be honest with yourself too, because we're all not perfect. Everybody, sometimes we might be making the mistakes. So, make sure you're checking both sides, I guess, is what I would say. All right. Last up, how do I write a Colleen Hoover level book that the teens are, quote, all about and makes me bank? First and foremost, if you don't know who Colleen Hoover is, she's an author, mostly known for being a mid-author, a middling author, a average author, if you will. And I don't mean to slander Colleen Hoover. That's just what people are saying to me. I've never read any of her books, so I don't really know. So, but she apparently makes a bunch of money by writing not very good books, hence the Colleen Hoover level of book that the teens are all about. First of all, you need to understand what the teens are all about. You need to get into the trends. You need to get into social media. You need to, what are teens talking about? You need to have some conversations with the teens. If you have kids, talk to your kids about what the teens are all about these days. What's the popular new trend? What are we into? What type of pants are popular now? What type of shoes are popular now? And I think once you kind of get a whole list of like pop culture things or trends or whatever's going on right now, and you can kind of like throw those into your book, like not just, the plot can be whatever, but if you can just throw pop culture references in it, it'll make the audience that you're targeting relate to, let's say the main character is a teen and they're doing all the stuff that all the other teens are doing. It'll make them relate to that main character, and thus they'll be like, oh my God, hey friend, I just read this book that I really relate to. You should read it too. And you can like kind of just like keep going with that chain. So it has to be relatable to what's going on, in, like you said, that the teens are all about. So the book has to, be about, it's got to include things that the teens are about. So what we think is cool, and makes you bank, like I said, you just have to, get that, word of mouth, like, you have to get the word of mouth so it spreads between reader to reader, is all I would say is how you'd make money from that. But to actually get people reading it, it's got to be relevant. It's got to be probably set in today, modern times, relevant, and it's got to be include things that we are truly all about. And then maybe, just maybe, you can get, you can laugh all the way to the bank and make a bunch of money really easy. So that's really all I would say for that. None of the questions are really connected at all, just like a series of, different questions from a bunch of different people. So try my best to give some, at least half decent advice. Hopefully I helped at least one of those people out with one of those questions. So might do this again sometime later in the year. Might ask some of you folks, send out a letter or something. I don't know, an email. But we'll figure it out. Kind of different today. Different little vibe. I kind of liked it. It was a little bit more entertaining for me, at least. I don't know about you folks, but that being said, thank you all for watching. Look out next week for the new episode, and make sure you're tuning into GNN stuff. The GNN channel, they post episodes weekly as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.